KG5DBA, KG5AAE. Over.
FC. I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima. My name is Brenda, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time using the # break break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control, that would be me, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur radio operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening, space exploration and space history, what's up, Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week, space launches this week, recent astronomical discoveries, and visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. Then astronomical Q&A and 73 round if there's time. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. Let's start with low power and short time check-ins. Please come now with your call sign, name, and where you are transmitting from this evening. Please come now.
November 5 Alpha, Bravo Alpha, Andre and Plano, low power.
We have one low power, N5ABA Andre. Please come now with regular check-ins.
Zen 5 Bravo Bravo, Bill in Irving. November Tango 5 Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
Echo November, Eric in Plano.
Papa Mike in Richardson.
Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, Tom, Lucille. Go Niner Victor, Michael in Plano. India 5 Golf Delta Tango, Reginald out of Dallas.
well, but we'll go ahead and start N5BD, Bill, NT5TM, Tony, KE5EN, Eric, KG5P, Mike, KE5ICX, Tom, WT9V, Michael, and then I think it's Reginald, and I've missed your call. Would you please come back with it?
Here, Reginald, Kilo India 5, Golf Delta Tango, Dallas.
Sorry, I still missed it. Would you come back a little slower?
It's Kilo India 5, Golf Delta Tango.
Okay, I'm sorry. I got KI5 Golf Delta Tango. Okay, do we have anybody on Echolink?
This is Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zoo Whiskey, Jay near Weatherford.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billy and Sherman.
Kilo 5, Juliet, Delta Whiskey, John in Norman, Oklahoma.
Okay, we've got KG5BZWJ, KF5PDS Billy, and John, I'm so sorry, I missed your prefix. Could you come back with that? I should know it. It looks like it's K5JDW. Okay, and then we had another one. I'll have to check on that. N5IMSJJ. Okay, any other check-ins from any mode?
Kilo Yankee Golf, Calvin in Arlington. Foxtrot 5, Zulu Bravo, Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch. James Hilton.
Okay, Calvin, I think it's W7KYG. Is that correct?
Affirmative, you got it right. Whiskey 7, Kilo Yankee Golf.
Thank you. I was missing the day they taught writing. KF5ZBL, Bill, and KG5WVL, James. All right. That's a good, healthy bunch. We can get some more check-ins later. I think we will go ahead and get started. And let's see what we're doing first. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? They could be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. Please come now.
KE5ICX.
KE5ICX, go ahead.
All right, I just want to remind everyone that the DARC, the Dallas Amateur Radio Club, is looking for amateur radio operators to volunteer and help with the annual Life Walk. This is in downtown Dallas on Sunday, October 6th. October 6th. That's a Sunday of this year. You can easily sign up online at w5fc.org. If you've never done a public service event, this is the perfect one for you to be a part of. All you need is a handy-talkie. We'll get you set up. And if you've never done an event before and you're a little shy about that, we will shadow you with someone who has done the event, and you can learn all about public service and how much fun it can be. Life Walk is an annual event. It is a walk, of course. It is meant to, as a fundraiser for AIDS awareness. This has been an event that the DRC has been a part of now for, probably 15 years now. It's great fun. A lot of corporate sponsors are there. There's a lot of activities that you might even want to participate in after the event. It's very easy to do. All you have to do is go to w5fc.org, look for the Life Walk radio support area there that is listed, and just say that you would like to participate. If you have a particular thing you would like to do, whether it be, say, SAG, possibly a rest stop, or something like that, go ahead and mention it. One of the things that's very interesting, well, many things interesting about this event is when you go ahead and sign up, say, for a pickup or what they call the poop-out van, it's not a van. Usually it's a Maserati or some luxury car, which is quite fascinating in and of itself, so you might pull that duty, amongst others. Again, go to w5fc.org to find out more about LifeWalk and the support, radio support that we'll be doing here in a couple of weeks. Also, this is the month of October, and November is coming up. This is the month of September. We got October and November coming up, which is very active both in amateur radio and in for the Dallas Amateur Radio Club. Take a look there, and you'll find out all the cool things that are going on and some of the public service events that you might want to sign up for, like Turkey Trot, and then there's the Dallas Marathon in December. So think about it, sign up, or go there now and do so. We can certainly use the help. We've got two more seats, I believe, available for Life Walk, at least. Two more people we need to sign up. We can easily use more for shadows and the like. Okay, that's it for me. KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. There are other, the AMSAT radio, this radio amateur satellite group has 2 nets available to Dallas residents. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time, you need Echolink installed and need to be registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website, www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston. Dallas AMSAT net, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.14 megahertz, PL 110.9 megahertz, positive offset. This is the net after this net at 10:30. Tonight we'll be discussing the newest science fiction film, Ad Astra, which was just released yesterday. It was our first field trip of the fall. I would like to ask Tom, KE5ICX, to give us a synopsis.
Okay, Miss Brenda, I'll do that. I didn't have anything really to go on this one, so I don't have any real funnies to tell you, but I can give you actual particulars. everyone's welcome to check in this evening at 10:30 p.m. to learn all about the film and get all the great spoilers. Yeah, if you're worried that you're going to miss out, you can certainly say you saw the movie without actually going to see it, because we're going to have tons of spoilers. If you're wondering, the film pulls its inspiration from the famous Heart of Darkness story, Apocalypse Now, which also pulled its story from Heart of Darkness and the island of Dr. Moreau. So come on by this evening at 10:30. You don't necessarily have to see the movie, but there have been a number of people. We had 10 folks show up for today's matinee at the Cineplex 17, Cinmark 17 over there at 635 and 35. So that's it from me for now. We'll see you at 10:30, KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. Next up, the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, if that's where and when you can look through a telescope. Does anybody have any information on this? Otherwise, I can give you something brief. All right. Meetings are held on the fourth Friday of every month except December at the University of Texas at Dallas campus in Richardson. The meeting begins at 7:30 p.m. in the Science Learning Center building. That's SLC on the campus map. Only parking lots H, I, or J. Parking anywhere else on campus could result in a ticket. Click here. Well, I don't know if you can do that. You can go to the campus map and click on it and see where you can park. The meetings include programs presented by members or guest speakers, a slideshow of the current constellation of the month, and items for sale such as T-shirts, books, and observing aids. You can find out more about TAS of Dallas at www.texasastro.org. The Texas Astronomical Society also hosts observing parties every Saturday night, beginning at sunset and concluding around 10 p.m. Central. Each week is a different location for observing, so make sure you get complete details for the Saturday night you wish to attend. Go to www.texasastro.org and select calendar in the pull-down for complete details. And I do not know where it is tonight. So if anyone has information on that, would you please come out? All right, next up, National Space Society events and activities. N5BB. Bill, do you have any information on that?
This is N5BB. Actually, I do not. I'm mobile right now. I apologize. I'll be home in a few minutes. National Space Society, except for December, all of our other meetings are the second Sunday of every month at 3:30 in the afternoon at Spring Creek Barbecue on the southwest corner of 183 and Beltline in Irving, across the street from Irving Mall. I do not know the topic for the next meeting. Sorry. And I have no other items pulled down because, again, I'm mobile. N5BB. Thank you.
All right, well, I'm also a member of the National Space Society, although I've missed a bunch of meetings. And I got an email the other day about the International Space Development Conference. It's going to be here in the Dallas area next spring. It rotates. It's a national conference held every year in a different city. And this next year, in 2020, in the spring, and I don't know the date, but you have plenty of time. This is a really big deal. I mean, they'll have all kinds of speakers and astronauts, scientists. It's really, I've never been to one. but I understand that it is just amazing.
Inside BB.
Info BB, go ahead.
It's going to be located, the time is going to be, the dates is going to be starting May the 27th, going through May the 31st of 2020. So some of this is tours in advance and everything, but the complete period would be May 27th to May 31st, 2020. This is the Embassy Suites in Frisco, inside BB.
Okay, thank you for that information, Bill. We have another check-in, K5KOB, Philip in Crandall. Anybody else want to check in at this point?
So this is Alpha Golf 5, Victor Whiskey, Jim in Dallas.
KF5 PDS recheck.
Jim, is that correct?
Yes, Jim, Alpha Golf 5, Victor Whiskey, that's correct.
Well, welcome to the net. KF5 PDS, Billy has a recheck. Go ahead.
I just wanted to relay some information. You had asked about Star Party information for this Saturday. Third Saturday of the month is usually at Cedar Hill, J.W. Williams Park. I looked on the Texas Astronomical Society Facebook page. I did not see a post about it being canceled, so I would assume it looks like it's a nice night. So unless the weather down there is radically different, it should have been a go. So again, third Saturday of the month is J.W. Williams Park in Cedar Hill. This is KF5 PDS, back to net.
Thanks so much, Billy. Next up is the discussion topic of the evening, and Tom has given it a clever name, Looking for Water in All the Right Places. He thought that up, not me. You may wonder, where did all the water come from? Well, it wasn't there during the Big Bang. We had helium and hydrogen. When the first round of stars was created, they were born, they died, and they created heavier elements inside them. Water was one of those. When they died, they shot water out into the universe, and it combined, not water, oxygen. It combined with hydrogen and created water. There is tons of water in the universe. There is I apologize. My voice is gone tonight. I don't know what happened. A team of astronomers discovered the largest, oldest mass of water ever detected in the universe. The newly discovered cloud of water vapor, equivalent to 140 trillion times the water in Earth's oceans, is more than 12 billion light years from Earth and surrounds a huge black hole of a quasar. So just think about how much water that is. Most of the oxygen in the universe is tied up in water. So, I think we have some images. I'm not sure. I can't look at both things at once. But anyway, Ganymede has a saltwater ocean. There's lots of water throughout the solar system. That's kind of what we're going to focus on tonight, is the water in the solar system. Ganymede has a saltwater ocean. Scientists using NASA's Hubble Space Telescope recently provided powerful evidence that Ganymede has a saltwater subsurface ocean likely sandwiched between two layers of ice. Europa and Enceladus are thought to have an ocean of liquid water beneath their surface in contact with mineral-rich rock, and may have the three ingredients needed for life as we know it: liquid water, essential chemical elements for biological processes, and sources of energy that could be used by living things. Then, NASA's Cassini mission has revealed Enceladus as an active world of icy geysers. Recent research suggests it may have hydrothermal activity on its ocean floor, an environment potentially suitable for living organisms. NASA spacecraft have also found signs of water in permanently shadowed craters on Mercury and our Moon, which hold a record of icy impacts across the ages like cryogenic keepsakes. While our solar system may seem drenched in some places, others seem to have lost large amounts of water. On Mars, NASA spacecraft have found clear evidence that the red planet had water on its surface for long periods in the distant past. NASA's Curiosity Mars rover discovered an ancient stream bed that existed amidst conditions favorable for life as we know it. More recently, NASA scientists, using ground-based telescopes, were able to estimate the amount of water Mars has lost over the eons. They concluded the planet once had enough liquid water to form an ocean, occupying almost half of Mars's northern hemisphere, in some regions reaching depths greater than a mile. So where did the water go? It's clear some of it is in the Martian polar ice caps and below the surface. We also think much of Mars's early atmosphere was stripped away by the wind of charged particles that streams from the sun, causing the planet to dry out. NASA's MAVEN mission is hard at work following this lead from its orbit around Mars. The story of how Mars dried out is intimately connected to how the red planet's atmosphere interacts with the solar wind. Data from the agency's solar missions, including STEREO, Solar Dynamics Observatory, and the planned Solar Probe Plus, are vital to helping us better understand what happened. Understanding the distribution of water in our solar system tells us a great deal about how the planets, moons, comets, and other bodies formed 4.5 billion years ago from the disk of gas and dust that surrounded our sun. The space closer to the sun was hotter and drier than the space farther from the sun, which was cold enough for water to condense. The dividing line, called the frost line, set around Jupiter's present-day orbit. Even today, this is the appropriate distance from the sun at which the ice on most comets begins to melt and become active. Their brilliant spray releases water ice, vapor, dust, and other chemicals, which has also formed the bedrock of most worlds of the frigid outer solar system. Scientists think it was too hot for the solar system's early days for water to condense into liquid or ice on the inner planets, so it had to be delivered, possibly by comets and water-bearing asteroids. NASA's Dawn mission is currently studying Ceres, which is the largest body in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Researchers think Ceres might have a water-rich composition similar to some of the bodies that brought water to the three rocky inner planets, including Earth. The amount of water in the giant planet Jupiter holds a critical missing piece to the puzzle of our solar system's formation. Jupiter was likely the first planet to form, and it contains most of the material that wasn't incorporated into the sun. The leading theories about its formation rest on the amount of water the planet soaked up. To help solve this mystery, NASA's Juno mission will measure this important quality beginning in mid-2020 2016. Obviously, this article's a little older. Looking further afield, observing other planetary systems as they form is like getting a glimpse of our own solar system's baby pictures, and water is a big part of that story. For example, NASA's Spitzer Space Telescope has observed signs of a hail of water-rich comets raining down on the young solar system, much like the bombardment planets in our solar system endured in their youth. With the study of exoplanets, planets that orbit other stars, we are closer than ever to finding out if other water-rich worlds like ours exist. In fact, our basic concept of what makes planets suitable for life is closely tied to water. Every star has a habitable zone or a range of distances around it in which temperatures are neither too hot nor too cold for liquid water to exist. This planet hunting Kepler mission was designed with this in mind. Kepler looks for planets in the habitable zone around many types of stars, recently verifying its thousands exoplanets. Kepler data confirmed that the most common planet sizes are worlds just slightly larger than Earth. Astronomers think many of those worlds could be entirely covered by deep oceans. Kepler's successor, K2, continues to watch for dips to uncover new worlds. The agency's upcoming test mission will study nearby bright stars in the solar neighborhood for Earth and super-Earth-sized exoplanets. Some of the planets test discovers may have water, and NASA's next Great Space Observatory, the James Webb Space Telescope, will examine the atmospheres of those special worlds in great detail. It's easy to forget that the story of Earth's water, from gentle rains to raging rivers, is intimately connected to a larger story of our solar system and beyond. But our water came from somewhere. Every world in our solar system got its water from the same shared source. So it's worth considering that your next glass of water you drink could easily have been a part of a comet, or an ocean, moon, or a long-vanished sea on the surface of Mars. And note that the night sky might be full of exoplanets formed by similar processes to our homeworld, where gentle waves wash against the shores of alien seas. Do we have any additional check-ins? Next up, space exploration and space history. Tony, NT5TM. Go ahead.
Thank you, Brenda. Some quick bits of space exploration news. Attempts by both NASA and the Indian Space Research Organization to contact the ISRO's Vikram lander ended yesterday with the coming of lunar night. There is no chance anymore of recovering the Vikram lander or its probe, but the Chandrayaan orbiter is doing fine. Other news, the Mars InSight lander has observed strange magnetic field variations on Mars, but only at the witching hour, local midnight. InSight's SACE, the seismic experiment for interior structure, contains the first ever vector magnetometer landed on the surface of Mars, and so far it's revealed two interesting findings. The site of the landing has a much stronger magnetic field than expected, and the magnetic field wobbles each night at midnight. The Martian crust is far more powerfully magnetic than scientists expected. Because the surface rocks contain traces of Mars's long-gone planetary magnetic field, that could mean that the planetary field was stronger or lasted longer than scientists have previously thought. What's more, the lander has picked up on a very peculiar electrically conductive layer, about 2.5 miles thick, deep beneath the planet's surface. It's far too early to say with certainty, but there's a chance that this layer could represent a global reservoir of liquid water.
Magnetic wobble, though, was the headline result. Although Mars no longer has a potent global magnetic field, it is surrounded by a weak magnetic bubble created by the solar wind. The bubble is compressed by the solar wind, causing part of the bubble to take on a tail-like or tadpole shape. At midnight, InSight's spot on Mars is aligned with this magnetotail, and as it passes through the tail, InSight may be hearing the solar wind plucking the surface field like a giant guitar string. It's hoped that orbiting probes will pass through the center of the magnetotail close enough at local midnight so that this hypothesis can be confirmed. Have two astronaut birthdays that you might have celebrated this week, and they were both on the same day. On September 30th, 1930, yes, the exact same day, September 30th, 1930, both Edgar Mitchell and Thomas Stafford were born. Edgar Mitchell was the sixth person to walk on the moon. He had one space flight, that was Apollo 14. Unfortunately, he kind of jumped off the big diving board. After leaving NASA, he became a parapsychologist and ufologist. Although he insisted he had never personally seen a UFO, he believed that he had been psychically healed of a kidney cancer, which was never diagnosed, and that UFOs have been visiting the Earth since the 1940s. For Tom Stafford, he was a member of the Gemini 6A crew, a part of the first crew, that is, to ever rendezvous successfully in space. During Apollo 10's return from the moon to the Earth, that crew, which he was a part of, set an all-time space speed record, 24,791 miles per hour, or over 11,000 meters per second. He flew on Gemini 6A, Gemini 9A, Apollo 10, and the famous Apollo-Soyuz test project. Week in space history saw a number of important things. On September 16th, back in 2016, that is, we saw the launch of Tiangong-2. This was China's second prototype space station. It was visited by one crewed mission, Shenzhou-11, and one prototype automatic cargo delivery vehicle, Tianzhou-1. Tiangong-2 was deorbited in July of 2019. September 18th, back in 1959, marked an important non-event. Vanguard 3C did not explode. Some of you watched The Right Stuff and saw all those rocket explosions. A lot of those were taken from the Vanguard missions. Vanguard 3 was the third successful launch in the early Vanguard program. This was sponsored by the Naval Research Laboratory. We weren't very good at rocket launches back in those years, and in fact, Vanguard 3 was the third attempt to launch a probe called Vanguard 3. The satellite measured the Earth's magnetic field, found the lower edge of the Van Allen belts, and counted micrometeorite impacts. 19th, 1961 was good for us Texans. Houston, we have a winner. NASA Administrator James E. Webb announced that the location of the new Manned Spacecraft Center would be Houston, Texas, after the conclusion of an intensive nationwide search by an early site selection team. The Manned Spacecraft Center would be the command center for the manned lunar landing missions and all follow-up manned spaceflight missions. The announcement was the third basic decision announced that fall. It included the expansion of facilities at the Atlantic Missile Range, better known as Cape Canaveral or Kennedy Space Center, and the establishment of the Spacecraft Fabrication Center at Michoud Ordnance Plant near New Orleans, Louisiana. NASA's site search team actually picked MacDill Air Force Base at Tampa, Florida as its first choice. And that they were about to close MacDill. However, Strategic Air Command changed their minds and said they wanted not only the base but all the surrounding land, and so some vacant land owned by Houston's Rice University became the winner. It was the second choice. An ordnance depot in San Francisco had been third. A little sad for Florida. They could have had all these space bases, but we got one.
September 19th, 1980. Kaboom! A Titan II exploded in its silo. An Air Force crew doing repairs and routine maintenance on a Titan II silo dropped a socket wrench socket down the silo. The socket came off the wrench, bounced off the sides of the silo and the work platforms, and hit the side of the missile. The side of the missile was not any stronger than it had to be. It was about the thickness of a nickel. The socket punched a hole and caused a leak from a pressurized fuel tank. Titan IIs used hypergolic fuel, an oxidizer in fuel that could be stored in stainless steel tanks but would spontaneously explode if they ever touched. Strategic Air Command, yes, the same folks who didn't know if they were going to close MacDill Air Force Base or not, dithered for over 8 hours over what should be done to solve the problem, and then events overtook them. The fuel vapors ignited, causing explosions, which killed an Air Force specialist and injured 21 other people. The explosion also blew off the 670-ton reinforced concrete silo door and catapulted the nuclear 200 meters into the air. The silo was later filled in with gravel, covered with grass, and given back to the local community, which they hoped would never look. This whole crazy incident up for two reasons. Those same Titan ICBMs launched the Gemini 2 missions into space, so people rode on these rockets, and also because it's a chance to plug a book I enjoyed. Eric Schlosser, Command and Control. Eric Schlosser wrote Command and Control, a great book on all the odd thoughts that went into nuclear weapons handling in the Cold War and all the weird things people thought during this accident when they didn't know what to do about it. And last but not least, on September 20th and 21st, 1970, there was a launch, but it wasn't a launch on Earth. It was a launch on the moon. Luna 16 was launched earlier in the month, and Kelly mentioned that. It landed on the moon, and it returned samples, a tiny sample, about 100 grams of moon rocks, to the Earth. The Soviet Union very much used a shoot-and-hope approach to their space program. This was the 6th attempt to land a probe on the moon, which could return samples. Some of them exploded in Earth orbit, some crashed into the ocean, some tipped over when they landed on the moon. I guess there might have been a boulder. Astronauts could have avoided that. But finally, Luna 16 landed on the surface of the moon, used a tiny core drill to collect 100 grams of moon rocks, and sent it back to Earth in a little rocket. Really, this was very impressive, but it was also very frustrating and expensive. I wish they'd done more testing, but they didn't. Luna 16 was their first success. This is NT5TM. Thank you for listening. Back to Net.
Thank you, Tony. Do we have any more check-ins? I understand there are more people on Echolink. Do we have information on that?
KE5ICX, I can relay.
KE5ICX. Go ahead, please.
All right, we have Elaine, KK6ZUB. She is on Echolink. We've got, let's see, K4KKP, Kilo 4 Kilo Papa, that's James. And we also have Jamie, Kilo Charlie 5, Mike Papa, Oscar. And I don't know where they're at, but those are folks that are listening in, I think, currently, KE5ICX.
Thank you. We've got KK. I may have butchered this. KK6ZUB Elaine. K4KXP James. KG5MPO Jamie. Please let me know if I have butchered those badly. KE5ICX, are you ready with the next report?
Yes, Mr. Brenda, I am, and this is KE5ICX, and normally Chaz, K5JJ, would do the was up, but he's not here. I think he's got students this evening, so I'm going to go ahead and go back to the dailyearthsky.org/tonight. Go there and you can get all sorts of information on what's going on in the sky. Tonight, they say at sunset, there's a natural phenomenon you may never have imagined. That is, the sun actually sets faster around the time of the equinox. That's coming up. The fastest sunspots and sunsets and sunrises occur at or near the equinoxes, and the slowest sunsets and sunrises occur at or near the solstices. Now, believe it or not, this is true whether you live in the northern or southern hemisphere. And by the way, when we say sunset here, we're talking about the actual number of minutes it takes for the body of the sun to sink below the western horizon. So why does the sun set so quickly around the equinoxes? Well, every equinox, the sun pretty much rises due east and sets due west. That means on the day of the equinox, the setting sun hits the horizon at its steepest possible angle. And they want me to emphasize that, steepest possible angle. Meanwhile, at a solstice, the sun is setting farthest north or farthest south of due west. The farther the sun sets from due west along the horizon, the shallower the angle of the setting sun. That means that the longer duration the sunset at the solstices. The sunset duration varies by latitude. Further north or south on the Earth's globe, the duration of the sunset lasts longer. Closer to the equator, the duration is shorter. But let's consider one latitude, 40 degrees north, and latitude Denver or Philadelphia in the United States or Beijing in China. At that latitude, on the day of the equinox, the sun sets at about 2 3/4 minutes. On the other hand, the solstice sun sets in roughly 3 1/4 minutes at 40 degrees latitude. So when is the equinox? Well, this September equinox will arrive on September 23rd, at 7:50 UTC time. Although the equinox happens at the same moment worldwide, your clock times will depend on your time zone. For time zones in the continental U.S., this equinox comes on September 23rd at 3:50 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 2:50 Central, 1:50 at Mountain, and 12:50 Pacific Daylight Time. So the bottom line is, in case you weren't paying attention or went to the bathroom and now you're back, the fastest sunsets of the year are happening now around the time of this September equinox. So that's it from me. This is KE5ICX, back to net control.
Thanks so much, Tom. This is WP5OZL. Next up, Miss Carolyn's constellation of the month. I'm going to call on Mike, KG5P. Go ahead, Mike.
Okay, this is KG5P. I'm not going to do Miss Carolyn's constellation of the month today. Let me shut my fan down here. It makes too much noise in the background. part two of what I started last week, which was Einstein's biggest blunder. I lost my notes here. But as you recall, we talked about Einstein intuitively believed that the universe was unchanging or static. In other words, it was not changing in size. It didn't get any bigger, it didn't get any smaller. It was a certain size. He believed it was also a certain shape, which would be like spherical. As mathematicians, you call it like a closed geometry. And so if you started at one point, wherever you started in the universe, and you start heading west, you'd end up going completely around and end up back where you started from. And I think he believed it was somewhere like 100 million light years or something like that. And he developed these general relativity equations. He called these field equations. And what they told him was that the universe really wasn't as he thought it was. But he so strongly believed that it was constant and unchanging that he threw in a fudge factor, kind of an ad hoc, that's my word, a fudge factor, but it'd be kind of an ad hoc addition to the equation to make the equations work out to conform to what he thought the universe was. And he had this for a number of years. In the meantime, a few other people came around, one of whom was Edwin Hubble. And with his observations, he proved that he showed that the universe was actually expanding. And not only was it expanding, the further away you went, the faster it was expanding. Einstein went back to work and he thought about this some more, and he finally agreed that that was a mistake. His steady universe was a mistake. It's anecdotal because you see different stories about this, so I think it's anecdotal. He said it was his greatest blunder. Now, whether he really said that, I tend to think not, and the reason is because I've heard different explanations, and one of them is he confided it to his friend George Gamow, and so did he really say it or not? I don't know. But what he ended up doing was he ended up removing his cosmological constant from the equation. Okay, we talked about that last week. So this has recently been, I hate to use the word resolved because nothing in science is ever really resolved. It's just enhanced upon or maybe even discarded when we come up with better observations. But there was an article a couple weeks ago, and it started like this. There's a fundamental problem in physics. A single number called the cosmological constant bridges the microscopic world of quantum mechanics and the macroscopic world of Einstein's theory of general relativity. But neither theory can agree on its value. In fact, there's such a huge discrepancy between the observed value of this constant and what the theory predicts that it is widely considered the worst prediction in the history of physics. Of theoretical physics this century. Then there's a researcher named Lucas Lombrizer, an assistant professor of theoretical physics at the University of Geneva, where, of course, they have the CERN accelerator in Switzerland. A new way of evaluating Einstein's equations of gravity to find a value for the cosmological constant that closely matches its observed value. And he published it online in the October 10th issue of the Journal of Physics Letters and all that kind of stuff. The story of the cosmological constant, which I sort of began, but the story began more than a century ago when Einstein presented a set of equations, now known as the Einstein's field equations, that became the framework of his theory of general relativity. These equations explain how matter and energy warp the fabric of space. and space and time to create the force of gravity. At the time, both Einstein and astronomers agreed that the universe was fixed in size and that the overall space between galaxies did not change. However, when Einstein applied general relativity to the theory, or to the universe as a whole, his theory predicted an unstable universe that would either expand or contract. To force the universe to be static, he tacked on this cosmological constant. A decade later, another physicist, Edwin Hubble, discovered that our universe is in fact not static, but expanding. The light from distant galaxies showed they were all moving away from each other. This revelation persuaded Einstein to abandon the cosmological constant from his field equations, as it was no longer necessary to explain an expanding universe. Physics lore has it that Einstein later confessed that the introduction of the cosmological constant to his equations was perhaps his greatest blunder. So that's that. Okay, let's fast forward to 1998. Observations of distant supernovas show that the universe wasn't just expanding, but the expansion was speeding up. Galaxies were accelerating away from each other as if some unknown force was overcoming gravity and shoving these galaxies apart. Physicists have named this enigmatic phenomenon dark energy, and dark meaning code words for, I don't know, because its true nature still remains a mystery. Okay, in a twist of irony, physicists once again reintroduced the cosmological constant into Einstein's field equations to account for the dark energy. In the current standard model of cosmology, known as ACDM, lambda CDM, lambda, the Greek letter lambda CDM, the cosmological constant is interchangeable with dark energy. Astronomers have estimated its value based on observation of distant supernovas and fluctuations in the cosmic microwave background. Although the value is absurdly small, on the order of 10 to the minus 52 per square meter, over the scale of the universe, it is significant enough to explain the accelerated expansion of space. The cosmological constant, or dark energy, currently constitutes about 70% of the energy content in our universe, which we can infer from the observed acceleration expansion that our universe is presently undergoing. Yet this constant is really not understood, Lombrizer said. Attempts to explain it have failed, and it seems to be something fundamental that we're missing in how we understand the cosmos. Unraveling this puzzle is one of the major research areas of modern physics. It is generally anticipated that resolving the issue may lead us to a more fundamental understanding of physics. The cosmological constant is thought to represent what physicists call vacuum energy. Now, this is really weird because our brains aren't really wired to comprehend this. In this vacuum energy of space, virtual particles pop in and out of existence and create energy. A seemingly absurd idea, but it's been one that's been observed experimentally. So you got these particles that appear out of nothing. So space really isn't an empty vacuum. This problem arises when physicists attempt to calculate its contribution to the cosmological constant. Their results differ from observations by a mind-boggling factor of 10 to 121. That is 10 followed by 120 zeros. Even the national debt isn't that big. There's a discrepancy between theory and experiment in all of physics. Such a disparity has caused some physicists to doubt Einstein's original equations of gravity. Some have even suggested alternative models of gravity. However, further evidence of gravitational waves by the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Wave Observatory LIGO, which we've talked about here on this net, have only strengthened general relativity and dismissed many of these alternative theories, which is why instead of rethinking gravity, Lombrizer took a different approach to solve this cosmic puzzle. And this is KG5B, and this is Skynet. The gravitational constant, which was first used in Isaac Newton's laws, and every first semester physics student knows this, it's now an essential part of Einstein's field equations. It describes the magnitude of the gravitational force between objects. It is considered one of the fundamental constants of physics, eternally unchanging since the beginning of the universe. Lombrizer has made the dramatic assumption that this constant can, in fact, change. In Lombrizer's modification of general relativity, the gravitational constant remains the same within our observable universe, but may vary beyond it. He suggests a multiverse scenario where there may be patches of the universe invisible to us that have different values for these fundamental constants. The creation of gravity gave Lombrizer an additional equation that relates this cosmological constant to the average sum of matter across time-space. For the estimated mass of all the galaxy stars, dark matter of the universe, all the stuff in the universe, you can solve this new equation to obtain a new value for the cosmological constant. And this particular value closely agrees with observations. Using a new parameter called omega lambda that expresses the fraction of the universe made of dark matter, he found that the universe is made up of about 74% dark energy. Now, this number closely matches the value of 68.5% estimated from observations, a tremendous improvement over the huge disparity found by the quantum field theory. And this 74% of dark energy is compared to about 5% of the energy and matter that we can observe. So most of the matter of the universe, matter and energy being interchangeable, is invisible to us. So, although Lombrizer's framework might solve this cosmological constant problem, there's currently no way to test it. But in the future, if experiments from other theories validate these equations, it could mean a major leap in our understanding of dark energy and provide a tool to solve other cosmic mysteries. So that concludes my segment for tonight. This is KG5P, and this is Skynet. Back to Ned.
All right, this is the end of your report. There's some other stuff written under here. Were you going to report on something else or no?
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because I forgot to do this last time. And that is I was going to give the rocket launch schedule for this week. There's a couple interesting things going on, none of which are going to be on TV, or televised, I should say, on the internet. On Sunday, that's tomorrow, the Chinese are going to shoot up one of their Long March missiles, and this is their project to eventually put 35 alternate GPS satellites up. And when they get this project completed in 2020, these are supposed to be 10 times more accurate than what we have today. All right. Okay, on Tuesday, the 24th, the Japanese are going to send up an HTV-8, which is going to be a resupply for the ISS. Will not be on TV or cast on the internet. Also on the 24th is another Long March Chinese missile, which is sending up some meteorologic satellites. Next day on Wednesday is a Soyuz, a Russian satellite, to send a replacement crew, including some Americans, to the ISS. And on Thursday is another Soyuz 2 where the Russians are sending up some military satellite. So those are the satellites for the week. There's none televised, so but we should have some coming up in the near future. Back to net KG5P. And thanks for reminding me, Brenda.
All right. Do we have any new check-ins?
Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Tango, Sierra Kilo, Berlin, Dallas.
Okay, we have KF5TSK Ball. Welcome to the net. Next up is recent astronomical discoveries. So I'm going to read this article called Most Massive Neutron Star Ever Detected, Almost Too Massive to Exist. Neutron stars, the compressed remains of massive stars gone supernova, are the densest normal objects in the known universe. Black holes are technically denser, but far from normal. Just a single sugar cube worth of neutron star material would weigh 100 million tons here on Earth, so about the same as the entire human population. The astronomers and physicists have studied and marveled at these objects for decades. Many mysteries remain about the nature of their interiors. Do crushed neutrons become superfluid and flow freely? Do they break down into a soup of subatomic quarks or other exotic particles? What is the tipping point when gravity wins out over matter and forms a black hole? A team of astronomers using the National Science Foundation's Green Bank telescope has brought us closer to finding the answers. The researchers, members of the Nanograph Physics Frontier Center, discovered that a rapidly rotating millisecond pulsar called JO740 plus 6620 is the most massive neutron star ever measured, packing 2.17 times the mass of our sun into a sphere only 30 kilometers across. This measurement approaches the limits of how massive and compact a single object can become without crushing itself down into a black hole. Recent work involving gravitational waves observed from colliding neutron stars by LIGO suggests that 2.17 solar masses might be very near that limit. Neutron stars are as mysterious as they are fascinating, said Thankful Cromartie, a graduate student at the University of Virginia, and Grote Reaver, pre-doctoral fellow at the National Radio Astronomy Observatory in Charlottesville, Virginia. These city-sized objects are essentially ginormous atomic nuclei. They are so massive that their interiors take on weird properties. Finding the maximum mass that physics and nature will allow can teach us a great deal about this otherwise inaccessible realm in astrophysics. Pulsars get their name because of the twin beams and radio waves they emit from their magnetic poles. These beams sweep across space in a lighthouse-like fashion. Some rotate hundreds of times each second. Since pulsars spin with such phenomenal speed and regularity, astronomers can use them as the cosmic equivalent of atomic clocks. Such precise timekeeping helps astronomers study the nature of space-time, measure the masses of stellar objects, and improve their understanding of general relativity. In the case of this binary system, which is nearly edge-on in relation to Earth, this cosmic precision provided a pathway for astronomers to calculate the mass of the two stars. As the ticking pulsar passes behind its white dwarf companion, there's a subtle, on the order of 10 millionths of a second, delay in the arrival time of the signals. This phenomenon is known as the Shapiro delay. In essence, gravity from the white dwarf star slightly warps the space surrounding it in accordance with Einstein's general theory of relativity. This warping means the pulses from the rotating neutron star have to travel just a little bit farther as they wend their way around the distortions of space-time caused by the white dwarf. Astronomers can use the amount of that delay to calculate the mass of the white dwarf. Once the mass of one of the co-orbiting bodies is known, it is a relatively straightforward process to accurately determine the mass of the other. Cromartie is the principal author on a paper accepted for publication in Nature Astronomy. The GBT observations were research related to her doctoral thesis, which proposed observing this system at two special points in their mutual orbits to accurately calculate the mass of the neutron star. The orientation of this binary star system created a fantastic cosmic library, said Scott Ransom, an astronomer at NRAO and co-author of the paper. Neutron stars have this tipping point where their interior densities get so extreme that the force of gravity overwhelms even the ability of the neutrons to resist further collapse. Each most massive neutron star we find brings us closer to identifying that tipping point and helping us to understand the physics of matter at these mind-boggling densities. These observations were also part of a larger observing campaign known as NanoGrav, short for North American Nanohertz Observatory for Gravitational Waves, which is a physics frontier center funded by the NSF. All right. Do we have any more check-ins? Looks like we have KA5JHA Chaz is there. Welcome to the net. All right. Do we want to do KE5ICX? What on the agenda do we want to do next? And are you ready to do those? Just let me know, please.
Oh, sure, I can do them. Satellite passages, I'll do those. KE5ICX.
Excellent. Go ahead.
All right, there's nothing magical about what I'm going to tell you. This is all from heavensabove.com. That's heavens, and then there's a hyphen in between, heavensabove.com. This is a great place to go if you're into amateur satellite stuff and you are not interested in downloading apps or anything like that. You can go to this site. You'll get all the appropriate Kepler information so that you can go ahead and do satellite passes. You can also do regular passes visible, and those that are just radio, I mean the invisible ones as well. So this is really cool. I've used this site for a long time. It would have also given you information today about the International Space Station pass that we had earlier this evening during TechNet. It's all there. All you have to do is plug in your longitude and latitude. No, you do not have to log in. You do have to allow cookies to be there so that you can go ahead and get this information automatically when you go to the website. So cookies enabled is an important part. So, what do we have? Well, let's see here. The first thing we're going to do is we'll talk about MSAT. Let me go ahead. I'm doing several million things at the same time. MSAT is a north-south satellite. It's got several passes. Now, interestingly, I got to tell you, apparently during the the equinox, I think that's what we're going through right now. Reflections, for whatever reason, aren't all that good. You need certain, oblique angles to be able to create really good passes. And some of the satellites that normally would be really good aren't coming through. Now, all orbits are a little different, but most of the ones that we're interested in are not. Envisat is always out there, and it always has good passes, week by week, day by day. So Envisat has 1, 2, 3, 4 passes I'll tell you about. First one is on September 22nd. Wait a minute, what is today? Let me make sure I got the right date. What is today? 20th? 21st? Oh, 21st. So it'll be tomorrow. 22nd, 3.2 magnitude, 1947, that's 7:47 our time. A great airplane. It reaches its highest point at 1953 at 82 degrees out of the west-southwest and then falls 10 degrees out of the north-northwest. Go ahead and pop in that. Oh, this is almost directly overhead from south to north, which is really nice, going through Sagittarius, through Draco. Well, everything goes through Draco, Ursa Minor, and then almost due north past Ursa Major. The next pass is September 22nd. Oh, wait, I think I did that one. Wait a minute. September 24th, I'll get this right. 4.3 magnitude at 2013 our time. That's 8:13 local. Out of the south, reaches highest point at 43 degrees at 2018, and then falls at 2023 out of the north-northwest. So what does that one look like? Yeah, I'm vamping for time. Isn't directly overhead. Let's see, direction-wise, same as always, it's coming out of the south, goes through Scorpius. It grazes Jupiter, by the way, which will be very bright in the sky, Bootes, and then Ursa Major. And that's also to the north. Surprise, surprise. Really good pass is September 30th. This will be 3.3 magnitude, 1950, that's 7:50 our time out of the south. Surprise. 1956, highest ascension is 74 degrees. Of the west-southwest, falls at 20:01 at 10 degrees, so this one is directly overhead. Oh, surprise, surprise, I'm exactly right. Through Sagittarius, Septum, Hercules, Draco again, and scoots past Ursa Major and Ursa Minor. So there you have it. That's all I got, really. I can't give you any more because I don't have any really favorable passes on all the other objects. But again, go to heavens-above.com, plug in your longitude and latitude, and remember where you're at, enable cookies so that it knows who you are, or just log in under a name and password and get all that information. So that's it from me. This is KE5ICX. Back to World Net Control.
Thank you, Tom. Do we have any more check-ins tonight?
Number 5, Whiskey Oscar India, William and Allen. Better late than never.
Okay, November 5, Whiskey Oscar India. William, welcome to the net. Does anybody have any additional questions, reports, need any fills? Please go ahead. I guess we'll wrap this up then. Please stand by. At 10:30, we're going to have the Afterglow movie discussion, and we're going to talk about Ad Astra. If you saw it, you can come and make comments. If you didn't see it, you can, but if you didn't see it and you don't want any spoilers, you might not want to listen in. So, tonight we had 24 hams participating on the air. Thank all of you who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is WB50ZL, Brenda. We'll be closing the net at 10:22 p.m. local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 73, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe.
And we'll be back for the Afterglow movie net in 10 minutes. 10 minutes, exactly. So, do the powder your nose thing and be back then. And we'll talk about Ad Astra, the movie from 2019 that actually opened yesterday. There'll be plenty of spoilers. This is KE5ICX. perfectly operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
Okay, it's time for the Afterglow Movie Net. I am Net Control, and I am KE5ICX, and this is Afterglow Movie Net. So what are we talking about? Well, let's see. Here it is. Ad Astra. Astra. Yeah, this film came out yesterday. I know you're used to a half-century-old film that's over on the internet and has been shredded to pieces a million times, and you've seen a zillion reviews and all of that. Not this time. We actually saw this movie. I think it was 9 or 10 of us. I think it was 10 of us. Several of us left crying. Some of us laughing hysterically. Others wondering, what the heck did we just see? And demanding that Stanley Kubrick come out from the shadows and say he made this film. Yeah, that happened. In any case, this is what we'll be talking about. Ad Astra. Yes, to the stars, or whatever that is, or add Astro dog onto the bill, Ad Astra. Yeah, so let me tell you about the film, and then we'll take check-ins. Here's the game. We watch a movie, and then we review the movie. Now, not everybody gets to see the movie, and that's certainly the case, but you can talk about anything that has to do with the theme of the movie, other films that you see or you suspect, whatever it is. We'll take any and everybody because we're that lonely. So here is the synopsis from the movie, and this is KE5I6. Ad Astra is a 2019 American science fiction adventure film produced, written, co-directed by James Gray, starring Brad Pitt, Tommy Lee Jones, Ruth Negga, Liv Taylor, and Donald Sutherland. Yeah, that Donald Sutherland. It follows an astronaut who goes into space in search of his lost father, whose experiment threatens the entire solar system. The project was announced in early, the description of this thing, the project was announced in early 2016, with Gray saying he wanted to create the most realistic depiction of space travel that's been put in a movie. No, he didn't. Pitt signed on to star in April of 2017, and the rest of the cast joined later that year. Filming began around Los Angeles that August, lasting through October. Ad Astra had its world premiere at the Venice Film Festival on August 29, 2019, and it was theoretically released in the United States on September 20th, 2019 by Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures. News for you, still says 20th Century Fox at the beginning. It received positive reviews from critics, with universal praise for Pitt's performance. All right, I'm going to read the plot, but I'm not going to read the whole thing because this goes a little longer and there's spoilers and all that. So if you don't want to listen, turn your radio off. You probably already have. And if you have and you can still hear me, turn your radio off. Here we go. The plot. In the near future, they don't say when, the solar system is being struck by mysterious power surges of unknown origin, threatening the future of the human race. After spying an incident on an immense space antenna, yeah, there's antennas, radio, caused by one of these surges. Major Roy McBride, son of the famed pioneering astronaut H. Clifford McBride, is informed by U.S. Space Command, or Spacecom, the United States Armed Forces branch operating in space, that the source of the surges has been traced to the Lima Project. Lima Project has been sent some 26 years prior to search for intelligent life from the farthest regions of the solar system under Clifford's leadership, and disappeared 16 years prior in orbit around Neptune. The Spacecom officer informs Roy that they believe Clifford may still be alive. He is tasked with the mission of traveling to Mars to try and establish communication with him. Roy accepts the mission and is joined by an old associate by his father, Colonel Pruitt from MASH. After taking a commercial flight to the moon, not that commercial flight, that would be the Space Clipper, was really more cool. Roy and Colonel Pruitt are escorted by U.S. military personnel to the Spacecom lunar base, taking them across no man's land. En route to the base, the lunar rovers, they are ambushed by scavenging pirates, who kill most of the group except for Roy and Pruitt. Well, they're the stars. Well, one of them is. After reaching the base, a dying Pruitt is placed into intensive care for his career. All right, I'm reading this one paragraph because it still goes on and you don't want to know. Roy transfers to a Spacecom Pan Am flight crewed by 4 Spacecom officers flying to Mars. During the journey, the ship receives a distress signal from SETI Alpha 6, from a Norwegian biomedical research space station manned by apes. Boarding the space station, Roy and the ship's captain find it abandoned, only to be attacked by an aggressive baboon test subject that escaped. It kills the ship's captain. He had a nose for the future before being neutralized by Roy. Another baboon attacks, but Roy escapes the station with the captain's body. I'm going to stop here because I'm going to cry. This is KE5ICS. I'm net control for tonight's Skynet. We're going to be talking about Ad Astra. Now, if this sounds familiar, and it should, you should check in, even if you did not see this film. That's an encouragement and a challenge because we're going to tell you everything we think about this film. So, I'm going to start with anybody who would like to check in. Please come now with your call sign, name, whether you saw the movie. Please come now.
Go Niner, Vector, you know who I am.
November 5, Hotel Yankee Papa, Tom and Irving, short time, 1 round only.
5 TSK, Burl and Dallas. I did see the movie.
It's KG5P, Mike and Richardson. I did not see the movie.
D5OZL, Brenda. I did see the movie.
Whiskey 7 Kilo Yankee Golf Calvin in Arlington. I did see the movie.
N5QLI, I did see the movie.
Kilo Golf 5, Papa Mike, November, James, Fort Worth. I did not see the movie. Kilo Golf 5, Bravo, Zulu, Whiskey, J, near Weatherford. I did see the film.
Let me go ahead and acknowledge everyone here that checked in, and yes, we got WT9V, Michael, yep, you saw it. N5HYP, Tom, yeah, I know you saw it. You were in the row in front of me. I threw popcorn on you, and you didn't notice. K5TSK, Burrow in Dallas, yeah, he saw the movie, but he did it on a Friday. Opening, day. KG5P, Mike? No, you didn't see the movie, but Mike, you're going to hear a lot of tropes in this thing that sound familiar. WB50ZL, Miss Brenda. Yeah, she saw the movie. I know she did. She was over on the right side of the theater. W7KYG, Calvin. Yes, you saw the movie. Excellent. N5QOI. Can I get a name? Roger, you saw the movie. Can I get your name?
November 5, Quebec, Lima, India. This is Danae in Arlington.
Okay, I've got November 5, Quebec, Lima, India. And, Danae, did I get that? I'm sorry.
My name is Danae, D-A-N-A-E, in Arlington.
All right, thank you. N5QLI, Danae, over in Arlington. I gotcha. KG5PMN, that's James. He did not see the movie, but James, you'll be in the queue. If you have any comments on the comments, you are more than welcome to do so. KG5BZWJ near Weatherford. He'll never go near Weatherford, but he's close to it. I got you checked in. Any additional check-ins, please come now. We're going to be talking about Ad Astra, the movie that came out yesterday, and many people saw today and yesterday, and will probably not see it tomorrow. But maybe any additional check-ins, please come now with your call sign phonetically. Your name? Did you see the movie? Okie dokie, that's fine. We'll go ahead and start. I'll take additional check-ins later on. This is KE5ICX. Tonight we're talking about the movie Ad Astra, which just came out. Brad Pitt produced and starred in this film. So, what we do is this. We go ahead and talk about the plot. We talk about the plot first, then we talk about the characterizations. Did the characterizations work? And of course, on the plot, did the story make sense? Did it work out for you personally? And then finally, we go into usually special effects and then anything you have to say. By that time, we're so tired, we just want to all go to bed and say, enough of this. So that's what happens. So we're going to start at the top. We've got Michael, WT9V, Mr. Victor. What did you think about the plot on this? And I know you like it. Flying film. Oh, fine film.
That's one way to put it. Fine. And I gotta figure out what that acronym actually means, because it's not what it usually means when it's just used as a word. Anyway, I blame you for this, Tom. This is all your fault. And basically, my thought was when the credits came up at the end, there were so many producers' names. Producer, this producer, that producer, some other producer, yet another producer, executive producers, assistant producers. They needed less producers, and I don't know, a writer? A writer would have been good. I think they didn't have any writers, so that may be the problem. I can't really wrap my head around this excuse for a plot. It's like, we need you to go to a secret base to record a message. WTF? They don't have secure comms? They can't send a tape? What is this? It's like, put it on a thumb drive and mail it to Mars. I don't know, but this okay, deep breath. I'm okay now. Let's face it, this movie was basically an excuse to spend 2 hours watching Brad Pitt's stubble grow. At some point, I think all those producers that plethora of producers took the science and physics book and used it to prop up a wobbly table somewhere, and that is the only thing they used that whole, science. Science? What's science? We don't need science. We got Brad Pitt's stubble to focus on. I mean, there were so many things wrong and so few things right. I mean, wrong things like exploding baboons all over the window. And they never did explain what was causing all the zappy things that were blowing up the Earth. Or did I sleep through that part? I might have slept through it. I mean, if it hadn't been for the caffeine gum that I just slipped into my pocket, I would have fallen asleep during, probably about an hour and 25 minutes into it when it got really slow and dull and boring. I don't know. My radio thinks I've talked too long, so I'll just toss it back to net control at this point.
Why, thank you, Michael, but I have to say it had a very engaging font. I think it's the Vandania font, which is the font of the next generation. So I disagree. The film was very exciting with the Vandania font. I will now go to N5HYP. Tom and company, what did you think of the plot? The net is yours.
K5ICX N5HYP. Yeah, Holly and I and Anna came along too. We saw the movie. To be really honest, Holly and I actually liked it. We're going to disagree with a lot of the rest of some of the rest of you. There were some gaping issues, not only with physics but with space travel and such like that. It was supposed to be more a kind of, the Brad Pitt character. The concept of the story is, here's this guy. He's so cool. He's so calm. He's so collected. His pulse rate never gets above 80, even when he's in a crisis. And the reason is because he has stuffed his emotions and he has stuffed his, some issues from the past. And that's kind of what he's what's being dealt with throughout the movie. It's slow and plotting because he is slow and plotting. So it wasn't bad. It had a level of tension to the plot. You knew that the government was going to be out to get him, and that they kind of were. But he is able to overcome those challenges by and ends up able to. The whole point is he ends up. The spoiler. He is searching for his father, and he finds out a lot of things about himself as he finds out more things about his father, who's been missing for a number of years. So, again, from a psychological standpoint, I think it's okay. There were certain aspects of it. The cinematography and the special effects were really pretty good. Yeah, some of the physics and some of the logic behind the physics was bad, but heck, it still worked. It looked visually quite nice, and Brad Pitt is Brad Pitt. He's not a great actor. And Tommy Lee Jones was never really allowed to do much more than what he normally does. So, but we liked it. Back to net. KE5ICX, N5HYP, good night all. Don't call on me for another round. I'm going to be going to bed. All right, thank you, Tom, and thank you. It's good to see Holly
again, Anna, and thank you guys for coming to the movie. I thought it was great fun. We had a blast. We had 10 people and who showed up at the theater, and we all kind of hung around the theater while the guy with the handy talk who was busy going, they won't wave, they will not wave, we cannot bring up the lights. We cannot bring up the lights. And that became a kind of a problem for the guy, but it's okay. Well, he's only 18. He's got a lot to learn. Next up, KFI PSK, Burrow in Dallas. I understand you were there opening night. You didn't want to spend any time with us. It's okay. Please explain yourself. Oh, and by the way, could you explain the plot to us as well? KFI PSK from KE5ICX.
This is KFI PSK. I have completed my daily psychological evaluation. I am focused and calm. You know, the whole part of this movie is about these computer evaluations, this daily ritual. The computer can evaluate mental and emotional state, but one of the things that everyone missed was even Brad Pitt had, you know, daddy issues. It is like he wanted to ask the computer, you know, about his feelings, and the computer was like, well, you passed your daily evaluation, and it's like, you know, I'm out of here. Made me wonder about, you know, this thing of daily evaluations. We had the same type of experience with Blade Runner, that every time he went on a mission, he had to go in and be reevaluated, and you know, if you failed, you had to go to the Mary room and I guess watch the movie and listen to the music, and I've been wondering where you get those Mary pills that they give you before landing. One of the things I thought about is in the Lima project, did they do any evaluations? You know, it's like Tommy Lee Jones, you know, everyone, you know, felt he had gone off the deep end. And sometimes I wondered if maybe he didn't want to return because he didn't want to go back to the evaluations. It's almost like a daily mental routine, and I was wondering, you know, could they just read a script and the computer would accept it? And that Mary room was, they showed flowers and music, and somehow it didn't seem to be impressive to me. I wondered, it looked like the world was so advanced that, you know, where would there be any flowers anywhere? Or, you know, why would you think this would be so relaxing? Another thing that seems strange, that they could only do laser communication from Mars. They couldn't do it from Earth. And I wondered if, you know, does a laser have a definite range and you can't receive anything? Well, like I say, I'd like to get some of those Mary pills. KSI PSK, back to that.
All right, thank you, Burl. The comfort room, yeah, I got some comments about that. I think they stole that from Hyperspace, a British comedy series, to be honest with you, where they had the same room where you had all the stuff going on, all the happy stuff going on to calm you down. That was the comfort room. So, yep, I agree with you. Okay, next up, Mike, KG5B. Mike, I know you didn't see it, but I think you have an idea of where this movie was going. Would you like to go ahead and pull in any parallelisms, any initial comments, anything you'd like to say about this movie you've not seen, but you have. KG5P from KE5ICX.
Right, KG5ICX, KG5P. Okay, Tom, good evening. Well, it sounded awfully reminiscent of Jodie Foster and, what was that movie she was in? You know what it was. Anyway, I got two words to say about this movie. Brad Pitt. Look it up on the internet, and somebody made the remark that it's typical of a Brad Pitt movie. So, you know, which I don't really mind Brad Pitt sometimes. He's been in some good stuff, at least entertaining stuff. So I'm sure this will be too. So that's all I know about Ad Astra. Except it means to the stars or something like that, doesn't it? It's like in French, maybe. Back to that KG5P.
Okay, Mike, you're closer than you think on that one. Keep that in mind. We'll come back to you and beat you up over all of this. WB50ZL. Miss Brenda, you were very quiet. You didn't really have a lot to say about the movie. You kind of were pensive. Please tell us, what did you think about Ad Astra from KE5ICX?
Thank you, Tom. This is WB50ZL. Well, first of all, Ad Astra is Latin for to the stars, which is meaningless here. They were still in the solar system. They didn't go to the stars. I don't know why they gave it that name. It just makes no sense whatsoever. The premise of selecting him because his pulse rate's low, it's like, really? Do you have any other way to select somebody to go on a mission? I'm just not sure about that. And those constant evaluations, that was so annoying. If somebody did that to me, I'd want to kill them. It's like, leave me alone. Do it once and be done with it. And the comfort rooms, those big, creepy, scary flowers, that would not be a comfort to me. And those made me think about the death rooms in Soylent Green. Now, as I understand the premise, these people in this spacecraft were going to go out there to Neptune and destroy the station out there. So he slips on board and kills everybody, and now he's going to go out there and destroy it. But where's the gain? And all these people died. I don't know. A lot of gratuitous deaths. But by the end, I was kind of wishing he would die as well because he was so annoying. He is kind of eye candy, I'll admit that, but this is just beyond my endurance to watch him have to look up his nostrils for 2 hours. So he goes up there and everything gets really muddled. We weren't really sure what's going on or what's happening, and it just seemed to get more ridiculous by the minute. When he pulled off that piece of metal and he's going to surf through the rings of Neptune, I'm like, really? A lot of the things in the plot were just stuff they made up so they could have something exciting, like the baboons. Really? And they're tooling across the moon's surface in those little buggies, knowing they're pirates, but they're out there like sitting ducks. So it was just set up to have a chase scene and a fight and more violence. And I think, you gotta feel used like that. All right, I'm gonna have more to say later. This is WB50ZL.
Thank you, Miss Brenda. You had more comments than I expected. So, all right, you need to go off to the side and think about and contemplate a more, passive approach to this. W7KYG, Calvin, you did see the film. What did you think of the plot from KE5ICX?
I did see the film, and I actually liked most aspects of the plot. I mean, I don't think we go to science fiction movies to see a accurate depiction of like space, physics and space travel, but there's some just basic things that were kind of annoying in that regard. But overall, it was a pretty good plot. I mean, opening scene, a giant antenna that starts at Earth's surface. You see that when Brad Pitt falls to the earth, that it's anchored on the ground. He's an astronaut wearing like a pressure suit, so he starts somewhere above is it called the death zone? So that's like 26,000 feet above sea level. So I find myself wondering, why is this antenna system not in orbit around the Earth rather than anchored on the ground? So that didn't make any sense. The moon battle I thought was kind of cool. It depicted a war zone that, if you think about the state of the surface of the moon, we have international law that is kind of ambiguous with respect to mining the surface, the resources of the moon, so I can kind of see that happening. There's like a International Outer Space Treaty of 1967 that permits property to be licensed and regulated for commercial endeavors, but under that treaty, no national sovereignty or anything can be asserted on any part of the surface of the moon. So I can imagine people would fight over the resources. That kind of makes sense. I'll reset. Communication with a space station orbiting around Neptune. I didn't understand why Brad Pitt had to fly to Mars to do that. You're using a laser to transmit a message to a space station orbiting Neptune. Why not do that from the surface of Earth, or from the moon for that matter? The only reason I can imagine why this makes any sense is maybe there are satellites, spy satellites orbiting Earth and orbiting the moon, where they position them just perfectly to intercept messages that might be sent to Neptune. But if there's only one space station around Neptune, why would you position a spy satellite to intercept? Didn't make any sense. Traveling from Mars to Neptune, why did we see scenes of Jupiter and Saturn along the way? You'd think they'd take a more direct route, but they made some good use of the Juno and Cassini images from those space probes, so yay, made for good special effects and whatnot. Reset. Fascinated by the suspended animation. It wasn't real clear, but you see Brad Pitt shove a tube into his stomach that was like a feeding tube, and I think the computer even said something along those lines. And then he had like a TENS unit, these little pads that were all over his skin on his arms and elsewhere, and you could see his muscles tensing. So I guess this was like preparation for suspended animation, so he could be fed and his muscles could be kept from atrophy for the 84 days, I guess it was, to travel to Neptune. So they have some really fast propulsion to get him to Neptune that fast. That was interesting. And then finally, I think I really liked the psychological struggles of the astronauts. That really was kind of neat. So you see, lots of people have talked about the psychological tests. That was amusing, I guess. But I thought it was kind of cool that they talked about, you kind of saw that there was a lot of melancholy behavior and, sadness and misery. There's a lot of studies about the effects of long-term space travel, and that's something they're trying to work out. How are they going to deal with that? I thought it was interesting, the father-son aspect, that was kind of neat. But in general, a lot of dealing with death in space and ejecting the deceased out into space, kind of like a burial at sea. So those were kind of neat aspects of things that I think astronauts and space colonists will deal with. So overall, I thought it was a pretty good plot. It made a lot of sense. Those were some of the highlights of things that I observed. My first time participating in the net, so I hope I did it right. W7KYG, back to you, Tom.
All right, thank you, Calvin. No, there's nothing wrong with anything. I think your observations were very good and credible, and there's nothing wrong, and I'm not judging. Nobody should judge. Part of the fun about this thing is that when we do nets, or this net, and we talk about films, is that the cool thing about science fiction movies is this. I'm gonna go ahead and redo this in why I think this net is kind of fun. First off, when you do a science fiction movie, the thing about it is that you not only have to create a credible storyline, you have to create a credible universe, you've got to create special effects that seem to work, you got to have actors that will buy into it because they can't see anything except the final result when it happens. And in the end, you got to have a director that can see way beyond everything and make the film work. So many times, about 80% of the times, movies don't make it to that level. They flame out early because of you can't make that happen. You can't make the film work. And that's what we talk about because we're all kind of brainiacs in that way. We look at it, we identify it. But at the same time, we understand the fact that the film can't always be what it wants to be because financial, physical, time elements cannot make that film work. So in the end, you gotta try and make that stuff happen. Somebody tells me that it's static. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now, anyone?
I can hear you.
All right, I'm getting feedback over on the interwebs, and they're telling me you can't hear me, which I can't imagine why. I'm so interesting. All right, I'm not sure what happened, but in any case, those are my comments, even if you did or did not hear me. So we're going to go to Danae, N5QLI. Welcome to the net. You're new. Tell us what you thought. You saw the movie. What did you think of the plot?
I enjoyed the movie. I am not a huge sci-fi fan, and the things that I enjoyed the most about the film were the stations on the moon and Mars. I really enjoyed seeing someone's ideas about how they thought that would look. I did think the plot was a little bit shallow. It was a little bit slow. It was a little too much of Brad Pitt brooding for my taste. I enjoyed the film, however. I liked the psychological aspect of how astronauts deal. I think that might have taken up a little bit too much of the movie for me. I really appreciate science fiction that shows me someone's ideas of what they think I'm trying to think of the right word, a station on the moon would be like. I enjoy seeing someone's ideas and thoughts and interpretations of what that would look like. So my comments are going to be brief. I enjoyed it. So thank you. Number 5, Quebec, Lima, India.
Well, thank you for your comments, and we coming around. Hopefully you'll be there. the thing about this film is none of us are film critics, not experts in any way, shape, or form. We're amateurs in every way, shape, and form. So any comments you got is really great. And one of the things we love about doing this is that we learn new things from each other regarding anything. Sometimes a really bad movie, whatever it is, actually turns out to be darn good because something about it just came out. Somebody saw something and went, you didn't see this. You went, wait, that's a good idea. And your comments on the film about, the desolence of space and the fact that people are alone, and in this case our hero was alone, and that does factor in. Those are things that are part of the human experience, and there's nothing wrong with talking about that at all. That's the whole point of this thing. So thanks, and I hope you're here for the next round when we talk about characterization. Next up, KG5PMN. James, if you're there, you said you didn't see the film, but do you got any comments about the comments? Go ahead, James. KG5PMN from KE5ICX.
This is Kilo Go 5 Papa Mike November. No comments. I'm just listening in, and you're sounding good to me, Tom. Back to you, KG5PMN.
Okay, thanks, James. And next up, KG5BZW, near but not in Weatherford. Your comments on the plot. Go ahead, sir, from KE5ICX.
This is KG5BZW. Yeah, plot. I don't know what to say. There's good elements, and then there's, I don't know. First off, I think, although I think this movie has been, I'm not sure what, I wouldn't, okay, let me restart on that. It's been commented on, there's the whole premise, of course, is just a little bit goofy. Some sort of antimatter thing in a spaceship. I don't know how many astronomical units from Earth, but just the antimatter. I mean, I had to. Of course, that was like, okay, well, this is going to be just a plot device that's going to get the movie going, and I'll just have to accept it, and that's pretty much how I looked at it. The bases were kind of cool, although I kept them getting taken out of the moment just because they did not handle inertia and gravity that well. Although, I mean, moon base, okay, we're kind of maybe something close to Earth gravity inside. Outside, we're, of course, and, moon's 1/6 gravity, no transition or explanation. Yeah, of course, I know sci-fi, they don't necessarily need to explain that, but, and stuff like, okay, we're clearly the spacecraft is accelerating, but there's no, shows me how long it's been since I've had physics, but no no forces acting on the inside because of the acceleration, whatever. stuff like that. Let me reset. Uh, just little things like that just took me out. Um, I actually like the battle scene on the moon. That was probably maybe one of the better aspects of the film. Of course, great visuals. I know we have a section that we normally comment on that. Very plodding, very boring. Of course, I think part of that is just the whole to get into the character, and it's like somehow the story has to reflect a certain aspect of the travels and whatnot. And so yeah, there's reason for the story to be so slow in some ways, but I don't know. And of course, here I thought it'd be a little bit less rambly here, but there just kept on being things like, okay, the space station. Yeah, well, you're going in one orbit. The space station's, even if it intersects your orbit, at that point, you're in different orbits. It's not like you're going, turn around, go to a station that's just, in a, I don't know, that just, you don't stop and turn around and go to the International Space Station if you're going on orbit to the moon or whatnot, whatever. That's not what happened in the movie, but I'm just trying to say that. And then, of course, it's like, okay, so how did all these planets align so that we could see them on the screen? Stuff like that. Stuff that was like, nice visual. Is that really what's happening? And then it's like, okay, now it makes me wonder about, there's just a lot of science that, as far as, certain aspects of it, I thought was spot on, but there's a lot that's just way off, and it wasn't a happy film, and I'm going to reset one more time. And I really don't know what to think of it. Gosh. It just seemed like a weird metaphor plot device that was just taken to a weird extreme. Metaphor for problems between a father and his son, and it's like we'll just dramatize it to 10 to the 11th power or something. I don't know. KG5BCW, back to that.
Jay, no, I feel your pain and confusion through all of that. Okay, I missed her, but I'm going to put her on the list. KFI-PDS, Miss Billy. By the way, it's good to see you and Mom this afternoon, and having lunch too, which was great. We had a great discussion. So, what did you think about the plot to tonight's movie? KFI-PDS from KE5ICX.
Great. Well, thank you, Tom. Yeah, this is KFI-PDS, Billy and Sherman, and we had a great time seeing you today, and Mom had a great time at the movies and visiting with everyone at lunch, so sorry for those who didn't make that. We had great conversation. It was fun and good food, so next time newcomers, get on the Facebook page so you can get coordinated with us so you can come on these field trips and get to sit around and meet folks face-to-face. Yeah, this movie, I agree with the comment about the plot being shallow. Yeah, it's a very thin plot, so to try to stretch it out into a full-length feature film, it got tedious. I agree with, I felt the boredom. To me, it was too long. It just, and they were trying to stretch it out, I think, too much. But to me, there was hardly any tension or suspense throughout the whole thing. It was just this long, laborious trip to Neptune. Two words adjectives that came to my mind were sad and depressing. You definitely felt, Brad Pitt's pain, but I just found it, the science, of course, was, off. There were a lot of holes. I wish they had gone more into the propulsion, about how they were able to get to, Neptune in 79 days from Mars, and which, we were discussing at lunch, and I know it was brought up, said, well, if it only takes 79 days to get to Neptune, why did they leave Brad Pitt's dad out there for 30-some-odd years, why didn't they just go and get him when they were seeing all the, the weirdness happen? So unless the weirdness didn't happen for 30 years and then all of a sudden it just started happening, but I'm not sure. That plot point wasn't very clear on when the, all the weirdness started happening. Plus, Neptune and Earth are not perfectly synchronized all the time, and, Neptune has an orbit of about 165 Earth years, so they wouldn't be perfectly aligned all the time for these pulses to reach Earth. So how is it they were getting all of these pulses so quickly, was not made very clear. And then how every base was affected by the pulses except for Mars. I mean, I get it, they were underground, but, the Earth and the Moon and Mars and Neptune are not always perfectly aligned. It might happen in, once in several hundred years. So how they were always feeling all these pulses all the time just did not seem right to me. And, it seemed like it was, the Brad Pitt close-up feature. So I thought there was too much of that. And I've got some other comments with characterization that I'll say for later. But I thought the plot was just too thinly stretched. Science was not credible, and too much was left out to, apply some, some wonder to it. It just seemed like a very tedious trip. And I don't know, maybe that was the feeling that the director wanted to convey, just the struggle of it all. Maybe it should have been called Ad Aspera instead of Ad Astra. So, more of to the struggle than to the stars. But, for me, the plot, it started out as interesting and engaging, but as it wore on, it just got tedious, and I lost interest, and there were times I was like, isn't this thing over yet? To me, it just seemed to stretch too long. So those are my comments about plot. It was okay, but I probably would not be interested in watching it again. So with that, I'll save other comments for characterization in the next round. This is KFI PDS, back to net.
Thank you, Billy, and thanks for your comments, and we'll come back to you in a little bit. It was good seeing you today. Let's do this. I always go ahead and take another round. We're talking about the plot to the movie Ad Astra, which came out on Friday, and a lot of us saw today. Does anybody else want to check in who has not done so already? I'm going to put you on the list if you did. Please come with your call sign and name. Did you see the film?
Whiskey 5 Echo Bravo Bravo. I saw the previews, W5EBB.
Okay, I got W5EBB, David. Thanks for doing the TechNet this evening. Do you have any comments about the film or any comments on the comments that you've heard? And then I'll go ahead and make my own. W5EBB from KE5ICX.
Yes, I do have some comments. Thanks. Well, I didn't see this in part because I didn't think that 2 hours, that was a bit long for a biography about Mary Tyler Moore's boss, Ed Asner. And also because, like I said, I saw the official previews on YouTube, and it did seem like this movie borrowed its plot elements and visuals from several other movies. Piecewise, maybe class 3 misdemeanor plagiarism, and some maybe a little more punitive. The moon buggy battle race escape was already done well in 1971 in Diamonds Are Forever, and it didn't really need to be rehashed. Cells within cells, interlinked. Cells within cells, interlinked. Yeah, that really was reminiscent of Blade Runner 2049. Now, a couple of movies I saw recently also seem to kind of fold into this movie. I'll Follow You Down with an older and more plump Haley Joel Osment from, I believe, 2014. He chases his father not through space but through time to dissuade him from taking a particular action. And in doing so, he finds a novel solution to one of the paradoxes of time travel. So that whole father-son sort of, the son chasing the father to try to keep him from doing something he shouldn't, that plot element seemed to be borrowed, from that movie in a contemporary version. The movie Gravity, Sandra Bullock and George Clooney, depicting the complexities of operations in space orbit, including the human element. And I think that was one of the objectives of this movie, was to depict a realistic version of space travel, and from the sounds of it, it didn't quite accomplish that goal. But overall, I'll look forward to seeing this in about 5 years once it becomes free on Voodoo.com, which, by the way, is the movies I'll Follow You Down and Gravity, I believe, are both free on Voodoo.com, and they're pretty good. W5EBB.
Well, thank you, David. And amazingly, you didn't see the film, but I think you got this one covered quite well. Here's the thing. For me personally, I wanted to really believe in this film. I want to believe, with the flying saucer and everything, and that's essentially what's going on here. I want to believe. It seems credible at the very beginning, and in fact, in many ways, it is credible. The whole idea of where are we going is sort of a 2001: A Space Odyssey sometime in the near future. So probably 2002 is what they're talking about, because the whole idea and the whole imagery that goes along with it suggests that somehow or another this is what our future could be. How incredible it might be, but in any case, overall, the pilot, the plot, and the ideas behind it. We've seen this before. We've seen it in other stories. I've already telegraphed the apocalypse now part about it, and the fact that we've got to find this guy and then talk to him, and in this case it's father and son, and they're not that much different from each other. Well, yeah, we've seen those stories before. We've lived those stories before, trust me. My problem with the story overall is that we've all been here before. I think every person who's on this net or listening has pretty much been through this with a father-son relationship in some way, shape, or form. And as such, to a greater or lesser extent, it is somewhat pedestrian in how it's handled. Was there something important that came out of this that the rest of us didn't know? Is there a sense of closure? Maybe. For some people. Others are going, well, I don't know. I didn't see a hell of a lot of closure on this thing. I'll tell you my feelings after watching this film. I felt frustrated by it. That they set this thing up, I spent 2 hours watching it, and they gave me an answer that wasn't an answer. I'm expecting an answer. You know, we all have time with our parents. We all have things that we've learned through the years about family and all of that. And I'm expecting something more important than what I already knew, which is, well, let's get on with our lives. Let's go ahead and do something else, and let's go ahead and we learn from the experience. Okay, I didn't have to go to Neptune to figure that one out. So tell me something I didn't know. And they didn't tell me anything I didn't know. Double negative, but it's true. So that's what frustrated about this movie. And by the way, what the heck are the orangutans doing on eating faces off of people? Where did the people go on the SOS? Nobody knows. They just decided to throw that part of the script into the airlock and send it off into deep space. That drove me nuts. That's when I lost it on this film. The first part being. What the heck happened? You know, you threw it in, I think they threw it in there simply to fill out 2 hours at a time because they had such a thin script they couldn't make it happen. So, I don't know. By the way, if you're going to cry in space, it's going to stay in your tear duct. It's not going to go down your eyes and your stubbled beard and all that. I think I'm getting angry about this film. Okay, I'm going to stop now, and I'm going to bang the table. There, you hear it? And come back. Bang on the table. I know what you thought. No, I'm not doing that. I'm banging on the table. All right, next up, WT9V. Michael, your comments. Now you're ready. We're going to talk about the characterization. What did you think about the characterization? WT9V from KE5ICX. All right, he's disappeared. He'll be back. KFI-TSK, Burrow, what do you think of characterization?
This is KFI-TSK. Well, one of the things that bothered me about the whole movie is, you know, Brad Pitt had no question about killing his father. It's like, well, you know they're going to kill your father, and he's like, hey, I got to get on that spacecraft. You know, who does that? I mean, you know, he didn't think about it or ponder over it. It was like, hey, I want to be first to get on. You know, and the father is like, I really don't care, you know, that, you know, the project's a failure, and he really didn't care about the project being destroyed, and, or, you know, why did they go through all this trouble to send a manned mission to destroy, you know, the space station? Why did they just send a rocket direct from Earth? And another thing that was unusual was, well, the space suits themselves had not changed in 30 years. I mean, they were exactly the same. The helmets were exactly the same in their appearance. And lastly, Brad Pitt used the explosion to propel himself back to Earth because there was not enough fuel on the rocket that he took from Mars. Some things just don't make sense. KF5TSK, back to net.
Thank you, you, Pearl. And you know what? You're always succinct and short in your comments. Only, usually less than a minute long. But you're absolutely right. Thank you. Let me go back to, let's see here. Somebody went to the restroom. I wonder who it could be. WT9 Victor. That would be Michael. I'm going to call him Victor anyway. Your comments on the characterization on this film. Go ahead, from KE5I6.
Okay, I'll own up to it. I was on the wrong side of the radio, and I just told Richardson what I thought about the characterization in the film, which was not much. Let me try again. I didn't really think much of the characterization. I mean, besides the long, boring pictures of Brad Pitt's face and his ever-growing stubble, which I don't think he was out there that long, because I don't think, beards grow faster than that. But, there really wasn't much of anything. I mean, there were fleeting glimpses of other people briefly, and, Donald Sutherland looked pretty good, but they killed him off early, and I don't know. I did think that the only resemblance between Brad Pitt and Tommy Lee Jones were the bags under their eyes. I just didn't care about anybody else. To me, the characterization of this movie was kind of like the walls in Chinese houses, made out of paper. WT90.
I don't disagree. Okay, next up, KG5P Mike. I didn't do my notes here. If you're in, you're in. If you're out, you're out. Any comments you got? This is Heart of Darkness and Apocalypse Now, in case you wondered. KG5P from KE5I6.
Well, Heart of Darkness was, of course, Joseph Conrad, of which Apocalypse Now. That's all. I don't have anything else on this, Tom, but thanks a lot. We'll see you next week. Bye. KG5P.
Okay, Mike. Sorry we couldn't get you to the movie this evening or this today. Usually you've been to them, but we'll shame you into the next one whenever it comes up. But you're lucky you escaped unscathed from seeing the film. WB5OZL, Miss Brenda, your comments on characterization. Go ahead, from KE5I6.
Thanks, Tom. This is WB5OZL. The Brad Pitt character, I think he lacked dimension. He was never funny, never smiled, didn't seem to have any interest. It was just, we're going to talk about the mission and talk about my physical character, like pulse rate, and I just didn't feel like he was a real person, personally. I have loved Tommy Lee Jones in so many movies for so many years. I mentioned to somebody that that he was in this movie, and I said, "Oh, he can do no wrong." Well, yeah, he can. He was in this movie. I hope he does another movie, because this is not the way I want to remember him. He was just awful looking, and I didn't think it was a good vehicle for him, actually. And the wife, she's a kind of a big deal actress, and they did almost nothing with her, and didn't really develop that whole relationship very much, I thought. I just think the characters were cardboard, one-dimensional, not too believable, and just too much killing, too much violence. It was gratuitous. I didn't like that. I want to admit, this isn't characterization, but that Mars, the Mars station, that's the dreariest place I've ever seen. They should have painted it or livened it up a little bit. That would be very bad for people's morale to have to live in that and look at that all the time. Well, I think that's all I have about characterization, so I'll turn it back. WB50ZL.
All right, thank you, Miss Brenda. And this is KE5ICX Net Control for tonight's After Movie Net. Next up is W7KYG. Calvin, your thoughts on characterization?
W7KYG here, it's Calvin. I kind of agree with Brenda that the characters did seem a little bit lacking in dimension, but, you know, there were good aspects as well. The Roy McBride, Brad Pitt character, his character was actually pretty good. In some ways, he kind of reminded me of Neil Armstrong, having watched that movie recently, the documentary or whatever it was about Neil Armstrong that just came out, the Armstrong movie. The Brad Pitt character seemed kind of mild in manner and sort of humble in similar ways to Neil Armstrong. So, I mean, I could kind of see an astronaut being that way to some degree. The Donald Sutherland character, Thomas Pruitt was his name. I don't understand why they killed him so soon and so quickly, and there was so little of him in the film. It was basically, you know, your dad and I got into a fight, and now he hates me. That was a little weird, why they trashed him so quickly, so he was like an extra. Tommy Lee Jones, I liked the character quite a bit. He kind of struck me as a mad scientist persona that kind of made sense, being obsessed with finding intelligent life and being totally depressed that he found none. Why going to Neptune is the right thing to do to find intelligent life in the universe is completely beyond my comprehension, but, you know, I thought it was kind of cool that he said something like, I orphaned you and made your mother a widow. That was a neat character flaw or difficulty with the Tommy Lee Jones character. And I agree with Brenda on the Liv Tyler character. Brad Pitt's wife, we didn't see much of her, but you know, the few scenes where we saw her, she seemed kind of believable for a long-suffering astronaut's wife who goes for months without seeing her husband. The only other character I really liked, I don't remember the actor's name, I think it was Captain Tanner, where he froze up on the landing and he wouldn't take manual control, and Brad Pitt had to do that for him, and they figured they'd keep it on the down low and not report it to Spacecom, probably so he wouldn't lose his job as a captain, a pilot. So, yeah, interesting characters. Not terrible, not great. W7KYG, back to net.
Thank you, Calvin. W7KYG, and this is KE5ICX. We're talking about the movie. What are we talking about? Ad Astra. Next up, N5, Quebec, Lima, India. That would be a Danae. Your comments. You did see the movie, and what are your comments on characterization? Go ahead.
My comments for this section are I really love character development in films and books, and I felt like it was really lacking in this. Almost every relationship that he had, the Liv Tyler character, I don't know what type of relationship it was. It was never really developed other than it was probably struggling, not an easy relationship because of all the time away. And his relationship with his dad, there was very little developed, and it's one of the things that I enjoy most. I like, films and books that really delve into that, so that part of the film definitely lacked for me. N5QLI, back to net.
All right, next up is KG5BZWJ. Your comments on characterization. Go ahead, from KE5ICX. There is a delay, and I understand what's happening, so let me go ahead and make my comments, and we'll go from there. And this is KE5ICX. As far as characterization is concerned, I thought, let's see, we're working with a very basic cast. Overall, I think the characters themselves are communicating one-on-one and everything. And, of course, the whole point of the thing is the Brad Pitt character, that guy, is pretty much on his own. He's gone ahead and completely isolated himself, and he has to go all the way to Neptune to un-isolate himself with his father. And that's okay. I mean, I get that. I get that whole vibe, I think, that every family member does when it comes to their parents, and how that is handled in the end. The problem I've got with some of the characterization has to do with the fact that there is no motivation. Okay, everybody goes through this stuff. You don't have to go to Neptune. You don't have to go to Mars. You don't have to figure this stuff out in a way. Originally with the plot, if the plot does not drive the story forward, then what is the point of the whole thing? You've got to drag the boats into the channel, and this movie failed to do that, and that's what really bugs me about it. I was in this awe and splendor about everything going on in the space program, and I'm thinking, we're moving to the stars ad Astra. But in the end, everybody's moving towards what's the next thing we're going to do. In the process of that, it drives me nuts that we cannot forward that in a way that makes any sense, in a credible way. That's the part that drives me insane. So, at any rate, I don't know if we're getting feedback or what. Let's see. I've got Jay and I got Billy over on Echolink. Let's see what I can do. Jay, KG5BZW, go ahead and try. We'll see what we can do. Go ahead. KG5BZW from KE5ICX. right, that's probably not going to work. Okay, I'll tell you what, I'll give you guys double time if we can get around the feedback that's going on. So I'm going to go to the top of the list, and we'll go ahead and talk about, I don't know, special effects, anything you want to add to the net. It's 11:52, so I'm going to open it up. So I'm going to start with WT9V. Michael, any comments you got? Anything having to do with the film that you want to bring? Special effects. Well, we've already done storyline, but anything you got? Yeah, I'm getting tired too. I didn't have my nap today. So go ahead, WT9V.
Yeah, I didn't have my nap either, and I don't normally take a nap, but today I could have used one, and almost took one in the middle of the film. I only have one comment that I can think of off the top of my head about special effects / stuff, and that is, if you ignored the fact that there really wasn't any scientific accuracy in so much of the movie, the visuals were pretty good. They were pretty nice. They were good. This, although I did spend a lot of the movie biting my tongue so I wouldn't scream out, "Will someone please clean the Vaseline off the camera lens?" And I did notice at one point, amusingly, that the theater also needed to clean the window the projector fires through because there were light smudges on the screen. As, things were scrolling and stuff. And I actually pointed out to Brenda, what? There's their glass is dirty and there's smudges on the screen. Anyway, back to you, Mr. Net Control Person, WT9V.
Thank you. And this is KE5ICX. Next up, KF5TSK, Pearl. It's open. What do you think about any and everything? Go ahead from KE5ICX.
This is KF5TSK. Well, nothing in the movie seemed to be I guess scientifically correct. It's like they made it up as they went, and being on Mars, that was like a concrete maze. It looked like it was shelves on either side of the walkway where they were. It supposedly Mars was the only place that wasn't affected by the storms, but like I said, why don't they just send a rocket direct and just blow the thing up? KF5TSK back to net.
Agree, Pearl. There's to be said, especially when it only takes 71 days to send somebody there. Why do you have to have humans to go? We already do humans going everywhere, or automated spacecraft going everywhere. This one can go anywhere too, and just blow the darn thing up. I agree. Let's see. KG5P. I'm looking at my notes here. I think, Mike, you got any additional comments? I don't know if you checked out or not. You could be there. Go ahead, Mike. KG5P from KE5ICX. say that I did not check him out when I Initiative. WB50ZL. Miss Brenda, your comments. Go ahead.
WB50ZL. Well, like in a lot of movies, you have something that the safety of all human life depends on, or survival of the solar system. So they send this one guy out there to fix it. I would have had a better plan than that. I would have sent more people, or had a backup plan, or a secondary unit, or something, because so much can go wrong, and if he failed, then that is the end of the of all life. They show us all these cataclysmic occurrences with the bursts. I assume these just continued on for the, what was it, 79 days it took to get out there? They didn't exactly tell us what was going on in Earth during that time. A lot of bad stuff could have been happening during that interval, but they didn't ever tell us. All right, I'm going to turn it back. WB50ZL.
Thank you, Brenda, and I don't disagree. I'm going to interject on this one as well. It reminds me of Space 1999 when the moon got blown out of orbit, and all of a sudden, you got to figure out, what are we going to do on the moon? It's everything about the moon. Yeah, it was all about the moon, but on Earth, everything probably was laid to waste. But nobody cared because this was about the... And this movie has a tendency to do the same thing. Nobody cares what happens. There's a fallout. Guy falls off a tower. Everybody falls off a tower at, 90,000 feet. Because that's the tower you got. Nobody cares. And that is another problem with this film that drives me nuts. Thank you for reminding me. Next up, W7 KYG. Calvin, your comments on whatever you want to talk about. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't have a lot more to share. I will say, you do look on the interwebs and they say it was like $80 million budget. I would say probably $50 million of that was spent on the special effects, and it was probably money well spent. There was a lot of thrilling visual stuff happening. I bet they blew a lot of money on that moon pirate battle. I thought it was kind of cool watching them fly over the edge into the crater, and the rover was spinning in circles as it fell slowly on the 1/6 Earth gravity, fall to the bottom of the crater. That was kind of neat. Lots of effort obviously went into the physics, the entropy, or whatever you want to call it, of the dust flinging from things and the rings around around Neptune. I don't know if we know if there's giant rocks versus small dust, but him jumping off of that spinning antenna thing on the space station and catapulting toward the ship to return back to Earth, that was a little weird, but still visually stunning and fun to watch. I guess, tobogganing through the ring of Neptune, that was kind of neat. Good film as far as visual and great special effects, and I don't really have very many other comments. W7 KYG, back to net.
All right, I generally don't acknowledge anything, but I think that at this point there is somebody out there that's using some sort of a relay or transband setup. You've got some sort of feedback going on. If you are doing that, would you please check your radio and turn it off? We appreciate you listening, but it's interfering with tonight's net. You may not notice it. You may be asleep. I don't know. but please turn it off if you can. I don't think it's deliberate because it's going on for a while. In any case, let me go ahead and continue down the list. I've got, thank you, Calvin. Next up, N5QLI. Danae, your comments. Anything you want to say about the movie? You saw it? What do you think? Go ahead, from KE5ICX. All right, they've fallen asleep. Let me go to David, W5EBB. Any comments that you have? Any final comments? Go ahead.
Well, I just switched off my radio and listened on the mobile to be sure that wasn't me. Something wrong with my mic setup. But am I breaking through that periodic squelch tone?
W5FC. Yeah, you are, and my apologies to the Echolink folks because there's no way that I can fix that without pulling plugs and allowing them in because it's so quick that I can't even get them in. So I think it's a feedback issue. I don't think it's malicious, but yeah, you're getting in. It's very low power. So go ahead.
All right, well, I just have a comment on the character. I think Robert Redford should have been cast instead of Tommy Lee Jones as Brad Pitt's father, because Brad Pitt now looks like Robert Redford did in 1992 when he directed Pitts in A River Runs Through It. It would have been cathartic, and that's a fun word to say, cathartic. Besides, Tommy Lee Jones should not have been available for this role. We know at the end of the movie Space Cowboys from the year 2000 that Tommy Lee Jones, who played the hawkish Colonel Hawk Hawkins, is frozen in time and space, standing on the surface of the moon holding the American flag. So the casting of Tommy Lee Jones in this movie just violates the continuum of space movie canon, unless he had been defrosted unbeknownst. W5EBB.
I agree. I will wholeheartedly agree. Okay, well, with our interference, I'll go ahead and make my final comments, and I'll tell you what the next movie will be. By the way, if you're watching Lost in Space, it's the final episode. The final episode over on MeTV is showing Junkyard in Space with a giant magnet that looks like one of those stupid magnets you had as a kid. The last episode we're showing right now. In any case, let me tell you my thoughts on the film. This film, it started out fantastic. I thought it was going to be very interesting. It had a lot of things going for it. There were some critical, positive reviews about that seemed to work. And I was okay with that. I went in with that positive attitude. And as soon as we got to the, what was it, the space station that needed the SOS, and this doesn't make any sense, because all of a sudden now, we've got a spacecraft that's on a trajectory to go and do something, and we're going to go check out this space station over here. It doesn't work that way. Ballistic trajectories don't work that way. You're not going to be able to suddenly stop and help people. It doesn't happen. Maybe on Star Trek it does, because you got star power, but you can do it star drive power and star power too. The other part is that when they get there, all of a sudden they got the apes that are eating the pilot's face, which is conveniently allows Brad Pitt to take over another this movie is headed downhill. In the end, you're looking at this thing and you're watching it going downhill quickly. That is a distraction for what you want to see, which is what's going to happen between the father and the son. Well, when that finally happens, they get together and this weird thing, and you didn't expect the father to go with you, did you? But you did, and all of a sudden now he doesn't want to be a part of it. That doesn't make any sense, so you should have figured it out. And then after that, suddenly he realizes that he has to have emotion, and he starts crying. So contrived. The thing started out really great, and it ended up being not so good. Now, I understand people felt that the film was good, and that's fine. That's your opinion, and I'm okay with that. But for me, I felt kind of shortchanged by the whole doggone thing. I was expecting more, and the other part is the film went too long, too much self-recrimination, self-thought. Now, let me tell you something else. I went to see Star Trek, the motion picture, on Wednesday, and is that a film that lives up to the original series? No. Did it have a lot of this going on in it? Yeah, it did. Tons and tons of it. Where, you know, the characters are self-aware, self-absorbed through the whole thing, to a point where you're going, I'm not understanding and feeling much for these characters, because in the end, I don't know what motivates them. And that's exactly what happened here. It's like pulling out the tablecloth underneath and saying that this underlying foundation doesn't make any sense, and then you drop everything on top of it, expecting everyone to go, wow, that's really deep. No, it's not deep if you don't make it deep. And I felt like I was cheated out of that. It wasn't deep. It wasn't deep in the motion picture 40 years later, trying to figure out what the hell the characters should be feeling while they're all standing around being really stilted. Well, the fact was they hadn't been together for 10 years, and nobody felt it was important for them to be engaged with one another. Well, in this, I felt the same way. Fast forward 4 days, and I see the same thing. What is the engagement? What are the characters trying to do? How do they feel about each other? Do they feel emotional? Yeah, they're not telling me why they're emotional. They don't seem to feel they're aloof. And as such, that's something we're supposed to learn. Well, maybe it is, but it's not engaging me. I don't feel overly concerned about the two of them. I got that in my own life with people. Tell me how I'm supposed to feel better about this whole thing. And the answer is, drop your father into the middle of a frickin' Saturn-like, what is it, ring. Just drop him in the ring. That'll be fine. Well, that's not an answer. That doesn't solve any problems for me. So, I don't know. That's kind of what drives me nuts about the whole thing. Okay, anybody got any final comments? I'm sorry, Echolink, I can't get you guys in because of the feedback, but anybody over there have any comments they want to bring? If you're on Echolink, type it into the chat box and I will relay. This is KE5ICX.
November 5, India, Mike Sierra.
Okay, I got N5IMS. Go ahead.
Well, I've been listening in there, but I was on my walk and listening on my handheld, and my signal was weak enough. And once the interference started, I knew there was no chance of me getting in, so I didn't even try. But now that I'm back home on the base, I figure I can override that. But I did have a question. I did finally receive a free pass to Cinemark that I could have used to do that, to watch with y'all, had it arrived in time. But I'm questioning on this movie. Should I use it for Downtown Abbey instead? This N5IMS.
W5FC. All right, I'm going to tell you, I'll go to Downtown Abbey. I hear it's a very good film, and I didn't keep up with any of it over on PBS, but I understand that the film is excellent. Spend it on that rather than spacesuits. Besides, spacesuits get old and they smell. They smell after. Yeah, that's what I would do. KE5ICX.
I did have one more comment. I thought the issue with the ape-like creatures going in there in response to the SOS, I suspect what happened is there was a shift in there to the version of Earth that was on the planet of the apes, and it was the apes that responded to the SOS. That's the only thing that I could figure out that would make that have any sense at all. N5IMS.
Oh, I don't disagree. In fact, we had the Planet of the Apes thing going on at a vibe when we were talking about it afterwards. At Cindy's after we watched the movie. So, all right, let me tell you this. Thanks so much. I appreciate your comments, and this is KE5ICX. I'm so sorry I can't get the echoing folks in on this one. I'm not even sure what we'll do afterwards since we got a feedback thing going on. But, let's see. Oh, well, let me do this. Let me go ahead and move on about what we'll do for next week. Next week's movie will be Starship from 1984. Yes, it's available online. No, I know nothing about this movie. Terminus is October 5th, which was recommended by this group. I do have it on the list. So we'll go ahead and throw those in there. And then I'm going to tell you something. My job now I now work in video and audio stuff for a company. I've never done that before. But one of the guys I work with actually did a film. And I'm going to go ahead and put this film in. It's not science fiction. And he's anxiously wanting to know what the heck we think about the film. And I told him, I said, your film will probably suck with these people because they have very high standards, even though they watch very lowbrow films. So I'll put that in. It's Blood Along the Brazos, which will be in October. And you can say whatever you want. I'm going to send him the audio and video, and we'll see what he thinks. So that will be the third one. I'll put it on the list tomorrow, Sunday. So does anybody have any final comments that they want? Next week's movie will be Starship from 1984. Same bad time, same bad channel. Any final comments, please come now.
WT9V.
Okay, WT9V. Michael, go ahead.
I could be wrong, but I think we have a couple of new people on the net tonight. I just wanted to say that it was great that they were participating.
night of nets. Well, it is, it was Saturday, now it's Sunday. And that is that on this repeater, starting at 6:30 is the traffic net, the ARRL traffic net from 6:30 to 7. And then from 7 until 8 or 8-ish is TechNet, where you can talk about anything about amateur radio, questions you have about the hobby, usually technical in nature. That's why it's called TechNet. Followed by, we could take an hour respite, and then at 9 o'clock we got the Astronomy Net, which is Skynet. Yeah, it's named after that thing that took over the world, Skynet, from 9 until 10. And then at 10:30, wait a minute, what did I say? Skynet, yeah, 9 until 10:30, that's it. Then from 10:30 until usually 12 o'clock, we talk about movies, After Glow Movie Net. So it's the night of nets. We have a lot of fun. Everybody can come in and talk about it. Anything. And even if you didn't see this final thing, you didn't see the movie, that's A-okay. Just talk about what you know. Because there's always connective tissue to whatever the heck it is we're watching. Or whatever we're talking about. Okay, I'm going to shut it down. It's 12:18. Betty, bye time for me. I'm going to say 7-3 to everybody. Have a good evening. And remember, Ad Astra. Or is that Ed Asner? Oh, Ed Asner. Astra. They're the same. Now I know. It's Ed Asner. Bye-bye and bye-bonds. This is KE5ICX, and I'm clear.
KE5ICX, WT9V.
Oh, Michael, go ahead. I am sure this whole noise thing is going to go on all night and all morning. But go ahead.
I just wanted to say that you seem to be much more animated and awake after having missed your nap this afternoon than you were last week when presumably you got your nap. What do you got in that drink of yours?
Oh, who's to say? I don't know. The whole point of the thing is that, well, I had all of you. We're in the company of watching a film together separately. That's what did it.
All right, go to bed, Tom. WT9V.
Just remember, only you can prevent forest fires. And with that, this is Tom, KE5ICX. I'm saying good night. And remember, I can't do it right. Remember, bye-bye and bye-bonds.